Good morning. This Wednesday morning, May the 20th. This is Caru coming to you live on Facebook Live from Spanish Fork, Utah. We're in the second chapter of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is our third day on the 11th verse. Good morning, Sundari Priya. Good morning, Govinda Dev. Om Agana Timarandasya Ganagana Sarakya Chaksurun Miritam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutare Sayam Rupakaramayam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamaram Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagara Raganatam Vitam Stam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paridana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visikhan Vitam Sta Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Pastaya Bhutade Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Paskata De Sadharine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Looks like Joe and Mahatma and Roman have joined Sundari Priya and Govinda. Thank you all. Good morning. This is our third day on the same verse, very important verse. Early on in the Bhagavatam, second chapter, first canto, 11th verse. We'll read the translation, the verse, and then the translation. Vedanti tat tatvam viram, tatvam yasgyanamavyam, brahmiti paramatmiti, bhagavaniti sabdyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call the non-dual substance. In other words, all three phases that we're going to describe here, they're all spirit. But at the same time, it's important to note that there are categories of spirit. Just like we're all Americans. And Trump is also an American. So in that sense, we're all one. But he's much more powerful than we are. He's the president and I'm not the president. So to say that Trump is an American and I'm an American does not make me the president. See what I'm saying? So we have the absolute truth in his personal feature as Bhagavan, in the Paramatma, the feature in which he expands into the hearts of all living beings, and we also have his impersonal feature as the Brahmajyoti. And they're all spirit. But it doesn't mean that the Brahmajyoti or the Brahmajyoti realization is on the same level as the personal or the Bhagavan realization. So that's why we have this simultaneous oneness and difference in all the different subject matters and topics of the absolute truth. And you cannot understand the absolute truth unless you accept the inconceivable oneness with and difference between the absolute truth in his original form and all the various aspects of his creation. So it says here, learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. And we talked yesterday, just to bring you up to speed, about how those who are impersonalists and realize just the shining effulgence feature of the Lord are preliminary students. And then a little higher are the yogis who realize the Paramatma feature of the Lord seated within their hearts. Now the impersonal realized, Brahman realized person does not understand the Paramatma feature, what to speak of the Bhagavan feature. Those who are Paramatma realized, they understand, including within the Paramatma realization, is the realization of the Lord in his impersonal Brahmajyoti feature. But only those who have realized Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and have a face-to-face relationship with him, only in those persons is included the comprehensive knowledge of the non-dual absolute truth in all three of his features. And of course, Arjuna is counted among those, and we quoted Arjuna a couple times during the previous days. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself talks about how rare a Bhagavan realized person is in the 7th chapter, 3rd verse. Krishna says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kastyad yatate siddhaya tatanam asiddhanam kastyad mam vedi tatparaham. Out of many, many thousands of men, only one may even endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, those who are liberated, in other words, understand the difference between the soul and the body, or are on the Brahman platform, hardly one amongst thousands and thousands of such liberated souls have a personal relationship with Krishna. Hardly one knows Krishna in truth. And Krishna says, Krishna can only be known by those persons who are in full Krishna consciousness. If you're in the impersonal Brahman consciousness, you cannot realize Krishna. If you're in the Paramatma consciousness, you cannot realize Krishna, because Krishna exists beyond the transcendental effulgence of the Lord or his expanded Paramatma feature. He is called adokshata. That means he's not available to our limited intellect and our limited senses. And Prabhupada says it's not possible for the Brahman realized impersonalist or the Paramatma realized yogi to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yashoda and the charioteer of Arjuna. So that means even Arjuna, who's a warrior, who's not a philosopher, he's not a renunciate, he's not a yogi, he's a family man, he's involved in the affairs of rulership, he is considered to be greater than the yogis or the impersonalists because of his personal relationship with Krishna. And Mother Yashoda, Krishna is sucking milk at her breast, so can we even imagine what her position is? Such impersonalists and yogis should bow down at her lotus feet. And then it's also indicated here that even great demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are confused about the potencies and the unlimited glories of Lord Sri Krishna. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is personally telling the story of Brahma Vimohan, the incident where Lord Brahma tried to test Krishna's powers against his own, with the result that Lord Brahma became totally confused, totally disoriented, totally illusioned. And Lord Chaitanya tells the story here. E mata sad aishwarya stana avatara Brahma Shiva anta napaya jiva kon chara. First of all, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes the material world as simply a cloud in the spiritual sky, and we all know the nature of clouds. They're wispy, they're insubstantial. And this material world's nature is that it suspends itself for some time in a corner of the spiritual world, and then it unmanifests. There are periods of manifestation, periods of annihilation, periods of recreation. Now, the spiritual world, the kingdom of God, does not come and go. It is stable. It is eternal. Vyaktasarita tamapum paramama yad prapanadvartate tad dhamma paramamaha. Those who have their swarups, their spiritually developed forms in the spiritual world, they don't have to worry about, number one, their form changing. They don't have to worry about birth, death, disease, and old age. Neither do they have to worry about their reality disappearing or being annihilated right underneath their feet. But we conditioned souls in the material world, that's what we call our conditioned life. That everything, including this body, including the universe itself, is in a state of flux and change. It's coming and going. Bhutva bhutva praliyate. So beyond the material world, there is a vast spiritual world, which is composed of the Brahma Jyoti, which it pervades and supports everything. And then there are huge Vaikuntha planets presided over by regal, monarchical, imperial, four-handed Narayans. And each Vaikuntha planet is many, many times bigger than the whole material cosmos. And there are countless Vaikuntha planets. And then as you rise up in the spiritual world, the summum bonum is Goloka Vrindavan, the transcendental abode of Lord Krishna, which is a planet shaped like a lotus flower. And it is bigger than all the Vaikuntha planets, and of course, what to speak of the material world combined. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says each Vaikuntha, and by the way, Vaikuntha, Kunta means fear, and Vai means without. The difference between the spiritual world and the material world is that in the spiritual world, there's no fear, because your body is your body. It's your original, eternal, Siddha Swarup, and you're not going to have to worry about it getting old, diseased, dying. You're not going to have to worry about rebirth. And the relationships that you have in the spiritual world, most importantly, your relationship with Krishna is not a temporary relationship. The most difficult thing to bear about life in the material world is the separation from those whom we've come to love. It is almost an unbearable sorrow to lose a loved one, and you don't have to worry or be in any anxiety or tension about that in the spiritual world, because if you come to love someone, that love is eternal. And the supreme lovable object is Krishna. He simply draws in all of your affection, all of your attention. just by his very nature. So it says here, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes on, he says, if Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot understand the length and breadth of the spiritual sky and the Vaikuntha planets, how can ordinary living entities begin to imagine them? Lord Brahma is a devotee. Over and above being a devotee, he's the head of our disciplic succession, our sampradaya. We are part of what's called the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So the transcendental knowledge of the Absolute Truth was originally, in the beginning of creation, imparted by Lord Krishna to Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma passed it down to Narada Muni, who passed it down to Vyasadeva, and thus it comes down to us through disciplic succession to the current day. So we worship Lord Brahma as our spiritual preceptor. And yet, at the same time, it appears that Lord Brahma made a mistake. It appears that when Krishna was on the planet 5,300 years ago, that Lord Brahma underestimated Krishna's powers, and he wanted to test Lord Krishna and perhaps even embarrass him. Now, how do we reconcile Lord Brahma's apparent mistake with the fact that he is the head of our line of disciplic succession, and it is in fact through Lord Brahma that we have any knowledge at all in the first place about Lord Krishna? In fact, this point was so sensitive to Madhvacharya, who is also our spiritual preceptor, that he did not include the 2 chapters called Brahma Vimohan in his Bhasya, in his commentaries of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It was too painful for him to think of Lord Brahma having slipped up in this way. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling the story himself right here. And so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not scruple about these 2 chapters in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. He went ahead and told them. And so what Lord Chaitanya's point of view obviously is that this is not a shortcoming of Lord Brahma at all. It's not that Lord Brahma fell down or deviated some or other from his platform of pure devotional service. It is rather that Krishna is so great. So it is not that Brahma is less, but that it is Krishna is so great that even great creators, universal creators like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, they cannot begin to comprehend the powers of Lord Krishna. What happened was, Krishna goes out every day performing his pastimes with thousands, if not tens of, I think actually they used to take 100,000 calves out every day to the pasture. Everybody knows that the calf cannot drink all the mother's milk that it wants. The mother cow produces more milk than is good for the health of the calf. If the calf is able to drink unrestrictedly, it will get sick and it'll be life-threatening. So the calf is allowed to drink in the morning, and then it's important that the calf and the cows be separated throughout the day. Then they're allowed to get back together in the evening, and the calf can have a second drink, but not continuously. So it was Krishna and Krishna's transcendental friends, the Gopas, whose job it was to take the calves out every day into the forest and spend the day with them, watching over them, caring for them, protecting them, and then they would come back in the evening and the calves would drink from their mother. So Lord Brahma thought, if I were to steal the cows and the calves, then that would embarrass Krishna. This is Leela. This is Krishna's arrangement. Ultimately, it's not a fault that has found itself into Brahma's consciousness. So everybody knows how foolish you feel, isn't it? If you are out in a mall somewhere and pick up some groceries and you come back and you've mislaid your keys somewhere. You can't open your car door. You look everywhere. And the last thing you want to do is call for help. Last thing you want to do is call your husband or your wife. Honey, I'm sorry to bother you, but I lost my key. Can you bring the keys out to the mall? It's the most embarrassing thing that could possibly happen to you. So Lord Brahma thought how embarrassing it would be for Krishna if he went out with 100,000 calves and thousands of friends, and then he were to come back to home at night in the evening and then have to confess to all of the elderly adult members of the community that some or other during the day, I lost 100,000 calves and I lost all my friends and I don't know what happened to them. So anyway, this was the intention of Lord Brahma. Now, Krishna and his friends were eating lunch, and some of the friends noticed where are the calves. They've wandered some distance away. And the friends were going to interrupt their lunch and go retrieve the calves. And Krishna said, no, you all finish your lunch, continue. I'll just go out myself and get them. So Krishna went out, and he couldn't find the calves. And then when he went back to the picnic area, he couldn't find his friends. And so Krishna started, just like a conditioned soul, to feel a little bit embarrassed. Like, did I lose them? Where did they go? And then immediately he picked up on the fact that this is Brahma's doing. This is Brahma trying to show off his mystic power as the creator of the universe and trying to embarrass me. Therefore, in the twinkling of an eye, he created an entire new set of 100,000 calves and his cowherd boys. And at the end of the day, they went back. Now, an interesting phenomenon occurred back in Vrindavan. For a long time, the mother cows had always wished that they would have Krishna as their calves. And the elderly parents in Vrindavan also wished that they would have Krishna as their son. Otherwise, they distinguished between their sons and their neighbors' sons and the people down the road's sons. And the mother cows distinguished between their calves and the calf of the cow next door. But on one level, they all wanted to have Krishna as their child, their offspring, just like the 16,000 queens always cherished a desire within their heart to be married to Krishna, or even the married gopis. Even though they were married in their hearts, they were married officially and legally, yada, 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 but really they were married to Krishna. They were the brides of Krishna. That's why when Krishna played the flute, they came even from out of the houses of their husbands. So when Krishna came back with the cows and the calves, who were expansions of him, somehow or other, all the cows and all the parents, they felt a special affection for their offspring that they'd never felt before. And they realized that some or other, they don't know how it happened, Krishna had fulfilled their desires. And that their children and that their calves were in fact none other than Krishna. This happened for 1 year, because time is relative. Time, according to the demigods, is much more expanded and extended than time down here. Our 6 months is just a fraction of a day for the demigods. So Lord Brahma, during the time that he looked away and then looked back again to see how Krishna was being embarrassed, 1 year had passed on earth. So for 1 year, Krishna went out with his own expansions, performed pastimes, and came back. And for 1 year, the parents, both human and cows, were just they weren't able to understand how much more affection they had for their offsprings. Neither were they discriminating anymore between their offspring and the offspring of their fellow cows, or their fellow people, neighbors and parents on the same block where they lived. This was an extraordinary phenomenon by which Lord Brahma factored into Krishna's plan to fulfill the desires of his devotee, to personally parent and to nourish and nurture none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead as their offsprings. Anyway, finally Lord Brahma checked back after a year by our calculation, and he saw that all the cows and all the cowherd boys were still there. He couldn't believe it. He thought he'd whisked them away to a secret place. He took a quick look, and sure enough, they were where he had put them a year ago, fast asleep. He looked back really quickly, and he couldn't understand what was going on. He began to get vertigo, to get disoriented. Who is this young Krishna? So Krishna could understand that Lord Brahma was checking out the situation. And so what he did was, the first scene was, every single one of the 100,000 cows, with all the exact same markings, not a single detail differed from the original. Every single one of the boys, not a single physical mark different from the original boy. Their personalities, their temperaments, their characters, their sense of humor, their likes and their dislikes, everything exactly the same. Isn't it not, would you agree with me, mind-blowing, even for the creator of the universe? And so this is the first scene that Brahma sees. And then when Krishna intimates that Brahma is checking things out, then Krishna opens the curtain to another scene where Brahma sees that each and every one of these cows and cowherd boys is a four-handed Vishnu form presiding over their own Vaikuntha planet, of which there are uncountable Vaikuntha planets, and each Vaikuntha planet is bigger than the entire material creation, which is composed of many, many thousands of universes, each universe of which is created and presided over by a Brahma. Lord Brahma is just stunned. He doesn't know whether he's up or down, coming or going. And as Lord Chaitanya is narrating the story, he says, Sabahaila Chaturbhuja, four-armed, Vaikuntera Pati. Each cowherd boy and calf appeared before Lord Brahma with four arms, and as the Vaikuntera Pati, as the presiding deity of their own vast Vaikuntha planet. Pritak, Pritak, Brahmandera, Brahma Kare Stuti. And then on top of that, every one of those four-armed Narayans is offering prayers to Lord Krishna. Aishwarya samagrasya viryasya yasasasrya gyanam vairagyaschapi shanam bhagamitingana mata parataram nanyat kinchidastinanjaya sutrimanagana sutre paramparama param sutre managanaiva. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the cowherd boys then became four-handed Narayans, predominating deities of Vaikuntha planets. And all the separate Brahmas, not only are the Narayans offering prayers to Lord Krishna, but the Brahmas also, thousands and thousands of Brahmas, besides our Brahma, who's played the trick on Krishna, is totally, they're offering Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigra Anadir Govinda Govinda Karana Karanam. So here are thousands of his peers, thousands of other Brahmas, each one of whom has created a material universe, which is part of the Mahatattva, the material creation, which is only an insubstantial wisp of a cloud in the spiritual world, in which there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, each one of which is far bigger than the material world, and Krishna is the transcendental autocrat in the highest planet called Goloka Vrindavan, which is bigger than all the rest of the material and spiritual creations combined. So in this vision, Brahma sees all of his peers prostratedly and humbly offering prayers to Krishna, and he's thinking, oh, whoa, hold on there, Nelly, I am way out of line. So he can't hit the dirt fast enough. He can't bow down fast enough. He can't ask for Krishna's forgiveness fast enough. Premanjana charita bhakti varochanena santa sadaiva hridaya shuvira yam shaima sundaram vichinta gunusharupam govindam maripurusham tamahang bhajami. It's mentioned in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, 14th chapter, 7th verse. Gunatmanas tepi gunan vimatam hitavatina shika isharecha kadeni yarva vimata sakapaya bupamsaveke mikadibhaja. In time, the great scientists may be able to count all the atoms of the universe, all the stars and planets in the sky, and all the particles of snow, as well as the grains of sand on the beach, but who among them can count the unlimited transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? He descends on the surface of the globe for the benefit of all living entities. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continues in the Chaitanya Chaitanya Madhya Leela, 21st chapter, 12th verse. Brahmadi Rahu Shahasha Vadananta Ninanta Gaya Mukha Napaya Gunaranta. If Lord Brahma can make a mistake in understanding Krishna, what to speak of ordinary persons? And then he says, to say nothing of Brahma, even Lord Ananta, who has thousands of heads, cannot reach the end of the Lord's transcendental qualities, even though he's continually chanting their praises. No one can understand why the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes to earth as an ordinary human being and executes such such wonderful, uncommon activities. No one can understand that is except for someone who has a relation with Krishna. Like, for instance, Arjuna. We would not have access to, we would not have the privilege of hearing the Bhagavad Gita were it not for Arjuna. Arjuna, Bahunam Janmanamate Gyanam Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatsvasurara. That Supreme Personality of Godhead who was not realized by great saints and sages and even demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, he appears on the surface of the earth as the chariot driver of his friend and confidant Arjuna. It's Arjuna who has brought Krishna to us. Without Arjuna, there would be no access to Krishna. And why is it that Krishna chooses Arjuna? There are many other qualified saints and sages and yogis and philosophers, even kings. Krishna says, Sa evaya maya tejam yoga prak bhakto sime sakacheti rahasyahi itad uttamam. I have chosen you, Arjuna, amongst so many other qualified personalities because you are my devotee as well as my friend. Now, our bhakti tradition says that inasmuch as we have no access to the sublime, supreme personality of Godhead, without his devotees, the devotees are the funnel by which Krishna comes to us, the devotees are as worshipable as God himself. A bona fide devotee will never claim to be God, but they are identical in the sense that when you serve and listen to and submit yourself before a bona fide devotee of the Lord who has a relationship with the Lord, then the Lord becomes available to you. And what is it that allows us to get a foot in the door to have a possibility for a relationship with the Lord? It is service. It's like we talked yesterday. If a man wants to make the acquaintance of a woman, he'll offer himself as a servant. What can I do? Can I fix the flat tire in your car? Can I come and mow your lawn? Can I take you out for dinner? Would you like to see a movie? Here's some flowers. It's through service that the possibility of a relationship arises. So not through mental speculation, not through impressive yoga feats, not through dexterously and adroitly studying all the scriptures and reciting the verses, but through service. And that means anybody can conquer the unconquerable Lord. He's democratic in that way. He's available to anybody. Of course, he's not available to those who are taken up with their yogic powers, who are absorbed in philosophical speculation, or who relegate all the wonderful, unlimited qualities of the Lord to some homogeneous, impersonalistic effulgence. They miss the Lord. But anybody, a street sweeper, politician, a housewife, a student, a teacher, anybody can access the Lord by serving him. Of course, you can't serve the Lord directly. That's not possible. But you can serve the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. That's our lifeline to the Supreme Personality of God. Ata Sri Krishna, Namadi Nababedbr. Sevan Mukhi Shivada, Sayamevas Paratiraham. Says no one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt, limited material senses that we are encased in. But Krishna can reveal himself to the devotees, being pleased to them for their transcendental loving service to him. Someone once said, we can never know God because the infinitesimal can never know the infinite. We accept that. We're infinitesimal. We can never know the infinite. However, the capabilities of the infinite are such that he can reveal himself to the infinitesimal. And why would he do that? Being pleased by our service attitude. That's the key, you see. That's the key. It is acknowledged by Lord Brahma himself in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam that whereas he could not understand the Lord by dueling with him, by competing with him, Lord Brahma threw out a web, a network of mystic powers, and Krishna counteracted in such a way as to totally eclipse Brahma's powers and eclipse, bring down and defeat the pride of Lord Brahma. So then Lord Brahma said, my path, what I did was totally inappropriate. However, the way to access the Supreme Personality of Godhead, atapi te deva padambuja dvaya prashada leshanagri deva hi janati tatvam bhagamahimo nachanya eko picharan bichinvam. Lord Brahma, in abject apology, ashamed of himself, he was the one that ended up getting embarrassed, not Krishna. He says, my Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy, atapi te deva padambuja dvaya, of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate in order to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many, many years. And it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Yajgatva na pranamaham evam yashasi pandava yena bhutini asheshani drakshasi atmine tomai. Although mental speculation, yoga, philosophy, impersonalism are feeble attempts to understand the absolute truth, when one serves in loving devotion and fidelity the lotus feet of a bona fide devotee of the Lord, that is the solid ground of spiritual realization, and one will never retreat from that. The gains that one gets from serving a pure devotee are permanent and inviolable. The translation of that verse is, Krishna speaking to Arjuna, having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never again fall into such illusion, for by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme. Or in other words, they are mine. What is illusion? What is the definition of illusion? We call it Maya. Ma means not, and Ya means this. So Maya means not this. Therefore, illusion means that anything that I see which is not in connection with Krishna is Maya. When I identify myself as white or 6 foot tall or Christian or Muslim or Hindu or Jew, that is Maya, because I am none of those things. I am Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhu Karanai. I'm an eternal part and parcel servant of Krishna. That's what I am. And any vision, any way of identifying oneself separate from that is Maya. It's an illusion. Lord Brahma started out by thinking that he was an independent controller, that he had some sovereignty and sphere of influence, separate and independent of Krishna. In other words, he made the mistake of thinking that he was the architect of his own talents and abilities. And Krishna showed him that was not the case. That whatever we have, whatever credits we have, whatever attributes, the very fact that we have breath of life within our lungs, that is all Krishna. There is only Krishna, 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 Krishna. And anytime we see anything separate from Krishna, that is called Maya. That is called illusion. Prabhupada says here, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of everything. He is the cause of all causes. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda, the Supreme Controller, over and above Brahma and Shiva, the Supreme Controller who has no controller over him, who has a body made of knowledge, bliss, and eternity, Sarva Karana Karanam, and who is the cause of all causes. Lord Brahma says, Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship that Govinda. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaka Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. That Krishna I worship, who is the joy of Mother Devaki and the son and of Nanda Maharaj, Nanda Bhavi and Yashoda, who is descended because of an attraction to give service and to accept service from those who have a relationship with him. That Krishna I worship, who is the cause of all causes. It says, even the millions of incarnations are only as different expansions. Similarly, the living entities are also expansions of Krishna. Prabhupada says here, the Mayavadi philosophers wrongly think that Krishna loses his own separate existence in his many expansions. When an impersonalist, a person with limited intelligence, hears about the absolute truth as being within each atom and within the hearts of all living beings, who has expanded himself throughout many planets and many universes, in fact, in each and every atom, from whom come Brahmas and Shivas and demigods and worlds and worlds and worlds and worlds, then those who have less intelligence think that in the process of expanding oneself unlimitedly, incalculably, that the original entity is now bankrupt. This is the limited material calculation of the impersonalist. Say, God is everywhere, and because he's diffused himself everywhere, he has some or other lost or misplaced his original existence. Total material calculation, isn't it? Calculated materially, if I have $1 and I lose $1, then materially calculated I have 0. But the absolute mathematics is that if you're unlimited, omnipotent, you expand yourself, the one expands himself, you take one away from one, absolute math, you still have one. You take an original one, and that one expands himself 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000,000 times, 10 trillion times. Guess what? You still have the one. Undiminished, unchanged, supreme personality of Godhead. That's what it means to be absolute. Another example that the impersonalists sometimes use is if you have a, 8.5 by 11 sheet of white paper and you tear it up, lots of little pieces, and then you throw those pieces out, you see, then there's no original paper yet. So thinking limitedly, thinking materially, and thinking offensively, if the truth be known, they believe that God has bankrupted himself, voided himself, exhausted himself by the process of entering into each atom, into the hearts of all living beings, and by creating unlimited material and spiritual worlds. Forgetting the nature of the absolute truth, that he is simultaneously, inconceivably one with and different from this material creation. Achinta beta abeta tattva. Prabhupada writes here, the living entities as separated parts and parcels of the Lord have a purpose to fulfill, having forgotten that purpose since time immemorial. Now listen to this. This is very key. Having forgotten the purpose for which we were created, since time immemorial, they are situated in different bodies as men, animals, demigods, etc. Such bodily differences arise from forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. But when one is engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord through Krishna consciousness, one at once becomes liberated from this illusion. What is being said here? The bodies we have, we get as a result of forgetfulness of Krishna. That means even the bodies of demigods are given as a result of forgetfulness of Krishna. So when your body is a body, which is a result of your forgetfulness of Krishna, how is it possible that using that body and that mind, you can understand Krishna? It is not possible. Some people have bodies from the mode of ignorance. Some have bodies from the mode of passion. And the demigods, admittedly, they have bodies from the mode of goodness. Good ordvamika chanti shat vashta. But whether your body is from the mode of passion, or whether your body is from the mode of ignorance, or whether your body is from the mode of goodness, it is a body which is indicative of and reflective of your forgetfulness of Krishna. So there's no way using that body that you're going to be able to reconnect or remember Krishna. Krishna Baliya Se Jiva Anadir Madhya. Therefore it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, Name vidu sharagana pravavam maharishana hamadirhi devanam maharishanam chasarvasham. Krishna says, neither the host of demigods, nor the great sages, know my origins or opulence, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. As mightily as they try to understand Krishna with their superior intellect, and make no mistake about it, the intellect of the demigods is millions of times greater than our intellect. And Lord Brahma is the greatest of all the demigods. So if Lord Brahma made a mistake in assessing the powers of Krishna, how much chance do we have by our tiny little brains to understand Krishna? Between 0 and none. Lord Brahma failed, so why even try that route? Here is what Lord Brahma says to us. Okay. Soham sama namayana tapomaya prajaparidam abhibandita pati yashtayam yogam nipunam samaitas tamya bhajam yata atma shambhava. Although, put this in your pipe and smoke it, you might say, although I am the great Brahma, perfect in the disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom, although I have undergone all austerities, and are we feeling a little small about now? Okay. And I'm expert in mystic powers and self-realization, and although I am recognized as such by the great forefathers of the living entities who offer me respectful obeisances, still I cannot understand him, the Lord, the source of my birth. Practically speaking, unless you're engaged in the service of a liberated soul, there is no other way to understand Krishna. Iha yasya hare dasya manasa kamana dasya. How we determine who is a liberated soul and who is a pretender, who is a false leader. It is simply due to the fact that body, mind, words are always 24/7 engaged in the service of the Lord. If you see someone who never has a break, who never has a gap, never has a hiatus in their service to the Lord throughout the entirety of every day and every night, then that is a liberated soul. They may still be encased in a material body. There will be a date of their death when the spiritual entity inside has to leave the body. But the fact is, that's just a formality. That's just a formality. Their spiritual body has already unfolded and blossomed from within the material body. When a snake sloughs off its old skin and slithers away in its new body, it is only a formality. The outer skin has ceased to be essential a long time back because the inner skin, the new body, has become fully developed inside of that outer skin. A liberated soul is one who has already achieved their spiritual form because of unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service of the Lord. Those who have a relationship with Krishna in love and devotion, according to the footsteps of the previous acharyas, are always to be considered never ordinary souls, but liberated souls. Muktir hibanyata rupam shrab rupena vyavastita. It is said here, liberation is the permanent situation of the form of the living entity after he gives up the changeable, gross, and subtle material bodies. We have no access to Krishna apart from following the footsteps of the liberated souls. Krishna is not available to ordinary beings such as you and me. He's accessible to the great devotees of the Lord who show supernatural, super excellent service and dedication to his lotus feet. So we're been about 45 minutes. We've spent 3 days on this very, very important verse. And we're going to wind everything up right now with a quote by Rishabdev from the 5th canto, 5th chapter, 2nd verse. Basically sums it all up. Mahat sevam dara maharvi muktam tamo doram yoshatam shamigasa mahantaste samapurshantam vimanyava surida sadavo ye. One can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. One should render service to the Mahatmas. The Mahatmas are equipoised. They do not see any difference between one living entity and another. They are very peaceful and fully engaged in devotional service. They are devoid of anger, and they work for the benefit of everyone. Such benefactors are known as Mahatmas. That concludes our 3 days of commentary and discourse, following the ways of the great acharyas and taking our cue from the Bhaktivedanta purports on this verse, which is the 11th verse in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sorry, someone called in on my phone, so there was an interruption there. And they'll probably try and call back, so let's just wind this up. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Anjali, and all those who joined us throughout the course of this wonderful time together, this beautiful Sangha. I will be missing you until we get together next Monday, again, with the Srimad Bhagavatam in front of us. In the meantime, we do have, at 7 o'clock on Saturday nights, we have a motivational talk called Chant for Change. We have another one on Sundays at 5:15. And at 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoons, there's the Krishna Light Show, which is just having a lot of fun with our culture, our songs, and our inheritance. So thank you once again. And before the phone rings once again and interrupts us, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.